Imagine surviving cancer, rebuilding your life, and finally feeling confident again, only to have a jealous coworker try to destroy everything you've worked for. But what if, instead of breaking, you turned the tables and made her pay for every cruel word?
If you've ever wished you could serve justice to a workplace bully, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready, because this is one of the most satisfying stories of karma you'll ever hear. 4 years ago, I was 24 and already felt like I'd lived a lifetime of pain. My mother had just died of breast cancer, both my grandmothers too. I was haunted by the fear that my fate was sealed, that cancer was waiting for me just around the corner. So I did what anyone would do. I got screened. The results? Not cancer, but a warning. Cells in my breast that could turn cancerous at any moment. My options were all terrifying. I could gamble with constant screenings, or I could take control and have a mastectomy. I chose the most drastic option, a bilateral mastectomy. I wanted to live. I wanted to break the cycle. But no one tells you what it's like to look in the mirror after surgery. The scars were huge, pink, jagged, impossible to ignore. I spiraled into depression, stopped leaving my flat, threw out my mirrors, and felt physically sick at the sight of myself. Therapy helped, but only so much. My therapist, seeing my pain, suggested a plastic surgeon. After failed creams and risky lasers, I chose implants, not for vanity, but for survival. For the first time in years, I could look at myself and not cry. Fast forward to the present. I'm 28, working in an office, finally feeling like myself again. That's when Jill enters the picture. Jill, my coworker, found out about my implants. Not the reason, just the fact. She overheard a joke between me and an old friend about flying with implants. By the end of the day, the whole office knew. Jill made sure of it. At first it was whispers, then the jokes started. More plastic than Barbie, fake in 2 ways, sack of silicone. She even speculated I'd gotten my surgery for free on taxpayer money. Every week, 3 or more times for months, I heard her snide remarks. I asked her to stop, but she just smirked and kept going. She always made sure there were no cameras, no witnesses, except the people she wanted to impress. I felt powerless. I'd survived cancer, but I couldn't survive Jill's cruelty. Every comment chipped away at my confidence, made me question if I belonged. Some coworkers supported me, but others just laughed it off or told me I was being too sensitive. The final straw came at lunch. I made an offhand comment about something being shallow. Jill, never missing a chance, gestured to my chest and said, "You'd know all about being shallow." Something inside me snapped. My hands shook, my heart pounded, but I refused to let her win. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Do you know why I have these? A few years ago, doctors found potentially cancerous cells in my breast tissue. I had a mastectomy and was left with huge, ugly scars. I went to therapy, then to a surgeon, and got implants so I could look at myself in the mirror without crying. So maybe next time you want to judge someone for having cosmetic surgery, you should ask them why they had it first." I picked up my food and walked out, leaving the table in stunned silence. That afternoon, a third of my coworkers came up to offer support. The rest? They said Jill was just joking and I was being a bitch. I shrugged. Jill was being a bitch long before I was. But then the real blow landed. An email from HR. They wanted to talk to me about creating a hostile work environment. The HR rep, Debbie, was Jill's friend. I knew exactly who had reported me. I felt the old fear creeping in. Was I about to lose everything again? But this time, I refused to be a victim. I remembered a clause in my contract. I could request an impartial overseer if I felt the HR reviewer was biased. I photocopied the page and highlighted it. Then I messaged everyone who'd supported me. HR wants to see me. Do you remember Jill insulting me? Would you be willing to write and sign a statement? 16 people stepped up.
Their letters described Jill's comments, the dates, the discomfort she caused. Some even included other insults Jill had made about coworkers' weight, noses, and more. I wrote down every time I'd asked Jill to stop, every incident I could remember, and who was there. I gathered my evidence, put it all in a folder, and prepared for battle. The next morning, I arrived early and collected the signed letters. When HR called me in, Debbie tried to lead the meeting. I calmly invoked my right to an impartial overseer showing the contract. Debbie protested, but the supervisor agreed with me. The interview was intense. They asked why I thought Jill reported me, why I hadn't come forward sooner, what exactly Jill had done. I laid it all out. The cancer, the surgery, the implants, the harassment. I handed over the letters, the list of witnesses, the contract clause. I even pointed out the lunchroom cameras that would have caught our confrontation. Debbie looked furious. She'd clearly expected to fire me, not face a mountain of evidence against her friend. After the meeting, I went back to my desk, heart pounding, ready to start job hunting just in case. One by one, my coworkers were called into HR. Then, finally, Jill was called. She came back fuming, glaring at me with pure hatred. At 4:30, she was called in again. By 5 p.m., Jill stormed back into the office, red-faced and furious, packing up her desk. She told anyone who would listen I'd gotten her fired, then shoved her way onto the lift. An email from HR landed in my inbox. Your case is closed. I exhaled for the first time in months. I'd survived cancer, survived the scars, and now I'd survived Jill. Sometimes the people who try to break you are the ones who end up breaking themselves. If you're ever made to feel small for surviving, for healing, or for just being yourself, remember you have more power than you think. And sometimes karma just needs a little push. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed. And of course, subscribe for more stories where karma finally catches up. Until next time, stand tall and never let a bully write your story.